Hello? Hello? There we go. Okay, I'm going to make sure this was for that. This should be playing. There it goes. Yeah, there we go. Mm. You can get rid of that. Mm.
Down as one of the most corrupt presidents in American
Trump
history.
Media and Technology Group is a publicly traded company with a fiduciary duty to their shareholders. Early access API, which is what you're talking about, is done by all of the competitors. This is not something that the president has done. This is something that the company has done.
Which platforms of the competitors is the president on? Like, is the president making announcements on Twitter or on Instagram?
All of his Truth Social posts end up on every other single platform.
But you get early access.
Truth Social first.
You get early access. You just beat your own argument.
You can subscribe like everybody else to early access.
Okay, thanks, Steve. The communications advisor for Truth Social.
All right.
Hey everybody, Adam Mockler here. You guys are going to be mind blown at how this segment on CNN unfolds. Because I was debating the senior communications advisor for Donald Trump's Truth Social. I decided to bring up on the spot the fact that Truth Social is incredibly corrupt and Trump is using it to sell early access. And throughout the segment, she begins to kind of prove my point. The corruption of this administration is unseen in American history before, and you guys should really watch until the end. If you appreciate the pushback of this administration, make sure you drop a like on this video to show some support. Make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed. Check this out.
Joining me now for more on all of this, Adam Mockler, who is the host of the Adam Mockler Show on the Midas Touch Network, and former Homeland Security spokesperson Katie Zachariah, who now serves as Senior Communications Advisor for Truth Social and Trump Media and Technology Group. Welcome back, both of you. All right, as the Republican here, let's let you weigh in on the Republican primary first. Senator Darlene Graham, what do you make of this? President Trump put a lot of chips on this.
Absolutely.
Seems like a big win for him.
Absolutely. Well, the president's endorsement record is unmatched. They're about a 97%, 100% in the Senate. 98% in the House and 80% with the governor's race, and I think that's going to even go higher with Darlene Graham tonight, and then also the governor's race in Oklahoma. So, look, I think this was a great win for Darlene Graham. I think the president's endorsement made the difference on this race, and I'm looking forward to seeing her win the Senate race. She'll take South Carolina.
You know, when I look at the criteria that I grade politicians by, it's not their last name or whether or not they were endorsed by Trump. It's generally the merits that they've built their career on. Darlene Graham couldn't answer simple questions about China and Taiwan, but because she has Trump's endorsement, you know, they're trying to turn us into this feudal monarchy where just because she's related to Lindsey Graham, she's unqualified for the position. Can I ask you, do you find it kind of scary that she didn't know basics about China and Taiwan?
Well, if we want to go to qualifications, I look at John Ossoff, who is a filmmaker, investigative journalist, no prior political experience.
China.
I look at Raphael Warnock, who had no prior political experience and pastor.
So can you answer the question?
I think Darlene Graham will have, look, I lived in China, Beijing, China. The whole situation with China is very important to me, very critical for me. Yeah. So I trust that Darlene Graham will absolutely know exactly what she needs when she's senator.
Wait, how do you trust that? She didn't know what she was saying on the debate stage. She will be a rubber stamp for all of Trump's worst impulses on going to war, just like we see with Iran right now. So you seem like you know more about China and Taiwan than want to be senator.
We're not looking as a rubber stamp. I mean, what, for Iran.
In order to be an effective politician, you need to have a base level of knowledge about what you're talking about and what you're voting on. When Donald Trump is taking us to war with Iran and other countries, it feels like Congress and the War Powers Resolution aren't acting as they should. So if Darlene Graham is a part of that Congress, she's not going to invoke the War Powers Resolution.
Is it not up to the people of South Carolina to determine whether they think she's fit for office?
It absolutely is.
So they will be voting.
So why do you think she won?
I think she won because, number one, name recognition in South Carolina. Number two, Trump's endorsements do carry a lot of weight.
He was running against a congressman who'd been there for 5 terms.
Yeah, but Trump's
made a clear point about national security.
Trump's endorsement carries a lot of weight, and she was basically anointed as a candidate when the entire Republican apparatus got behind her. She wasn't fighting an uphill battle. She was basically just pushed into the position, right?
But that President Trump's endorsement record and the endorsement of Darlene Graham and the support of South Carolina voters who voted in is the confluence of the events. This isn't a rubber stamp. He endorses her and she wins. They actually elected her.
I'm not saying that he's a rubber stamp for her. I'm saying that Donald Trump endorsed her so strongly because he knows that when she gets in the Congress, when she gets in the Senate, she is going to be a rubber stamp on everything that he does. I mean, how is she going to be able to differentiate between China and Taiwan in a good decision and a bad decision?
But the Republican voters in South Carolina had a choice to pick Ralph Norman, who clearly was not going to be a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
That's the reason that Donald Trump didn't endorse him.
Yeah.
And they chose Darlene Graham, so maybe that in itself is democracy.
Well, the Republicans,
what they want.
No, I'm not saying it's anti-democratic. I'm just saying that the Republican voter base is wrapped around Trump's finger. His endorsement carries a lot of weight, and it feels like she was not ready for this position, yet she was pushed into it. I mean, we have to admit, not being able to answer a simple question on China and Taiwan is quite alarming.
And saying that national security is not my thing is not.
I mean, it's a little bit alarming.
Necessarily the thing you want to hear.
It's a little bit
Senator.
alarming.
Let's talk about what's happening in Texas. A poll we can put up on the screen. The Senate race there is heating up. New poll shows that Democrat James Tallarico with a narrow lead over Republican Ken Paxton. That gap appears wider among independent voters who were polled. 48% said they had an unfavorable view of Paxton compared to just 14% who held an unfavorable view of Tallarico. Adam, if Democrats were able to finally win Texas, which has been the white whale for so long, that probably means they've won the Senate. Because that means you're probably winning in a lot of other places because this tends to go as a wave. What is the biggest difference between a Democratic Senate and a Republican Senate for the average person?
We just pointed it out perfectly. The Iran war could have been stopped with a War Powers Resolution after 60 days, and that helps the American people a lot on affordability, on gas prices. Knowing that the Strait of Hormuz is open again would be nice. I also think we need a massive anti-corruption push. We need to be investigating some of the corruption happening. For example, Donald Trump is selling early access to his Truth Social for $100,000 a month, where you can get insider information about stocks in the Iran war. I mean, you're the communications advisor for Truth Social. How do you justify that?
It's not insider information. It's what other companies are doing. This is what competitors are doing.
Well, $100,000 a month
zeros
is only
in the
able
latency.
for like $100,000.
They're not getting insider
if you
trading
pay 100
information, they're getting early access, and this happens on X. This happens with every other competitor.
Adam
uphill battle.
mentioned the stakes, how he sees it in terms of what would a Democratic Senate be. What is a Republican Senate? What's the stakes for you?
Well, for me, it's continuing on President Trump's legacy, and we are very likely going to lose the House, in my opinion. I think we have some chance to win the House, but it's looking at about a 60-40 that we lose it, that the Republicans lose. And I think that the Senate will hold as a safeguard to continue at least being able to not weaponize the entire next 2 years against President Trump tied up in impeachment. I would also like to continue to see deportations. I would love to see President Trump's continuation of the ability to tariff and make America great.
I mean, I don't know what the legacy is that you're protecting. Is it like the Iran war that's failing, or the Epstein files? Is it the social that you kind of just dodged away from? The reality is, $100,000 is a very high barrier of entry. If you want to have that barrier of entry, you have to fall in firms or have a lot of money. Other platforms are selling access to the president's early Truth Social posts. So I don't know what legacy you're defending, but he's going to go down to
Shroud Media and Technology Group is a publicly traded company with a fiduciary duty to their shareholders.
That sounds. Oh my gosh, that
what
actually.
we're talking about is done by all of the competitors. This is not something that the president has done. This is something that the company has
Which
done.
platforms
And that
of the
is
competitors is the president? Like, is the president making
Makes
announcements
sense.
on
I know this
Twitter
sport
or on
guy.
Instagram?
Okay, I might up the stream.
end up on every
I'm busy on stream right now.
other
Focused on this, and I appreciate that. But I might later.
Social first.
Early access, you just beat your own argument.
You can subscribe like everybody else to early access.
Okay, thanks. The communications advisor for Truth Social.
All right. Well, there's going to be more to talk about in the next hour, including Canadian tariffs and Dolly Parton, which may bring us together.
All right, now I want to show you how part 2 played out. I don't want to be an asshole, but how is this the senior communications advisor for Donald Trump's Truth Social? I had to go on another panel with her about an hour later, which was admittedly very awkward walking into that room after the first interaction. And I want you to watch this closely.
You should really even
Does
notice
it
that.
feel like she's trying really hard to come back and get some sort of own on me? It feels like she really wants to prove herself after that first clip. Watch this and let me know what you think.
I mean, it seems like this could be a bit of an inflection point in how the party's changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it tracks based on what I know about MAGA. They seem to prioritize loyalty to Trump over deep policy knowledge. And I don't know, it might be a hot take, but I appreciate meritocracy in America. I appreciate people earning this, and I appreciate people having the skill set to take on these challenges as a senator. And saying that like foreign policy is not your thing deeply worries me as a young person
National
in
security
America.
is not
Sorry, national security is not our thing. That's even scarier, to be honest. What do you mean national security isn't your thing? We're in a war with Iran that is ratcheting up our deficit and our debt, and that's going to fall on my generation. I mean, we pay $1 trillion per year just in the interest. I don't think Darlene James can be voting these wars down.
You're shaking your head.
Well, first of all, I think MAGA is not just loyal to President Trump. I think, well, are you MAGA? Can you speak for MAGA? Because I absolutely can. I can say that, for instance, why I'm grateful we have President Trump is not just Iran as a standalone issue, but when you look at the greater threat, and we've discussed this at length, of China.
I hate when they get built into their act. It should be like blocked space.
Retaliatory tariffs on China and bringing the fentanyl deaths down, because he said, I will give you a 20% tariff on your country if you continue sending manufacturing workers who send them over to Mexico and then over our border. Our fentanyl deaths are down exorbitantly, and our border is closed. I think we are in a very, very difficult set of circumstances
Because
with
of
Iran.
Donald Trump.
And I think
Because of Donald Trump.
his power to hopefully keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And if it's your position that the world is safer with Iran having a nuclear weapon, I would love to hear that argument, because
why would I
that
ever
is
say
why
that?
we're there.
No, I mean-
Well, you are hostile against it, and the key reason why you're there is what he has said over and over and over again. which is
Iran.
Iran can't have a nuclear weapon.
hostile
So
against
if
this
your
war?
position is they can have a nuclear
No, of
weapon or
course not.
should, then I'd like to hear that.
I'm hostile against this war because I like when America wins. I don't like when America ends endless conflicts, and that's what this is. Donald
So
Trump.
how do you win here?
Donald Trump went into this war with 4 different objectives: regime change,
Change that,
denuclearization,
like,
ending their funding of proxies, and ending their missile
How do you
capacity.
win here?
Right now, Donald Trump has put himself in an impossible situation.
I'm gonna
He has the
answer.
nuclear material right now.
How do you
Where
win
is the
this
nuclear
war?
material right now?
Do you believe? So do you believe that there wasn't nuclear material?
No. Where
is
is
that
it
your
right
position?
now? No, do you? Where is the nuclear material?
Where is the
How do you
material?
win this war?
Well, I am not President Trump, and I am not briefed in the national security briefings and where we are. I think his blockade was absolutely brilliant with the Strait of Hormuz.
But it's still closed.
He has leveraged
Closed.
the surrounding regional leaders, which other people had not done in the past, other presidents had not done, and he has brought in allies and even adversaries to, and as China, as they were saying that they were going to start sending missiles, he brought China back to heel.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I do not think Iran should have a nuclear weapon. The world would be safer if they don't have a nuclear weapon. But the nuclear material is still in Iran right now. It's buried under rubble and it is not inaccessible.
So do you think we should have a further military excursion?
I am not for further military excursions. We are 180 days into this war that was supposed to be 4 weeks long. You know what my solution would be? A diplomatic, joint, comprehensive plan of action. It's almost like we had that back
With
in
Iran,
2016.
like as they negotiate, they've been negotiating.
They haven't been
these deals.
negotiating. Donald Trump's been vacillating between the carrot and the stick.
So you think that?
Carrot and
Yeah,
stick.
let's talk about something else that is being negotiated right now, which is tariffs
Sure,
with Canada, which just have been announced. There's clearly been a breakdown in the negotiations between the White House and the Canadian leadership. Is this a smart strategy?
I don't think it's a smart strategy. I think that having strong international order, a strong alliance with countries around us is very, very important. Trump has isolated us from the globe by placing tariffs on our allies, moving closer to North Korea while pulling our troops out of South Korea. You don't think North Korea is a good country, right? So he's basically said Kim Jong-un
She doesn't answer. She was quiet. So he goes, all right, I'm just gonna continue, I guess.
treats him so well that he is getting closer to North Korea. He's very soft on Russia. He's even oftentimes kind of weirdly soft on China. Donald Trump has repeatedly botched this foreign policy, and again, I want to see an America that's strong on the global stage, not one that's isolating Canada.
Canada tariffs.
Well, Canada tariffs, but I do want you to answer, how is he soft on China? I studied this very hard, but this is why one of my biggest reasons I support President Trump is because he's the only president that has gone after China. He has, no other president has done this. And as much as he saves face and gives respect to Xi Jinping, he is extremely tough on China behind the
He
scenes.
seems to be kind of vacillating on our commitments to Taiwan. Do you think that we should protect Taiwan?
How is he tough on China?
Because
Or how is he
Taiwan,
lightweight on China?
because Taiwan is a very important international issue, and right now people are heading into the Senate that don't even know a single thing about Taiwan, like Darling.
That's not a policy position on China.
Do you
You
think-
keep going back to Darling Graham.
Do you
You're
think
not
Taiwan-
actually answering my
Do you
question.
think we should protect Taiwan?
How has he been softer on China? Specifically, give me. No, this isn't about Taiwan. This is about Beijing.
Taiwan is an interconnected
How
to
is he
China
been soft on
directly.
China?
Okay, we're getting
Is
off.
Taiwan not connected
Of
directly
course,
to China?
the Taiwan issue is of course connected to China, but also the policy hasn't changed on Taiwan. I mean, there's been stuff that's said, but the actual policy has not changed on Taiwan as of yet. Hasn't changed in generations for the United States.
Of course.
Well, I'll give Katie her point. How do you think President Trump is not being tough on China?
Yeah, that was a good way of moderating. I was saying the exact same thing. She had a good point, like not like actually.
But it seems like he's retreating from this strategic ambiguity strategy that we've been using for a while. Strategic ambiguity is when we don't actually say what we're going to do, but Trump has backed off of that. I mean, we should be very strongly fighting for international rights, for sovereignty of Taiwan, of Ukraine. I would call that not being assertive on the global stage. Also, here's a great one. How about tariffing Canada, which makes Canada now do trade with China? Canada is turning towards the EU and China and doing more trade with them. Do you deny that?
Well,
Do you
I would
deny
first say
that?
China has a huge problem with the population of China that have
Let's
taken
answer the
over.
question. When Canada is moving towards China, you tried to pin
I'm
me down.
actually answering your question.
He said. I mean, I don't sometimes a little. He pretty much nothing can't. That's pretty cool to ask, but I had some debris in there right in it. Alright, scrap.
We're gonna end on something nice. Last point.
I would say Canada already has a huge problem in the fact that China has by and large taken over large parts of Vancouver and city areas with the Chinese population. You don't even need a visa as a Chinese citizen to go to Canada anymore. And I think that is for them a much greater issue with China.
You know, I really feel like she was trying to get one over on me in that second segment, but it just didn't really land like she wanted it to. I'm gonna leave it there. If you appreciate these videos and you want to see more debates, more pushback, more of this content, make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed below, turn on the bell for post notifications. I love you all. Peace out.
I just realized when I was taking a pee that the word they used for me is homicidal maniac, but that's the correct term, right?
It was one of the most brutal killing sprees in all of Maine's history, sending shockwaves through the small town of Amity. Fortunately, and to the relief of the townspeople, it wasn't long before a suspect in the triple homicide was apprehended. However, the motive they gave behind the killings is one of the most bizarre and unbelievable, leaving investigators questioning how much was fact and how much was twisted fiction. Entangled in the killer's countless outrageous statements is the remaining question. Was it a revenge slaying, so-called vigilante justice, or a senseless crime carried out by a cold-blooded murderer who just wanted to know what it was like to kill? Referring to Amity, Maine as a tiny town is a bit of an understatement. There were only 238 residents back in 2010, and with the savagely brutal killings, the count was further reduced by 3 on the night of June 22nd. With one crime, Amity's innocence had been stolen, and things would never be the same. On June 23rd, 30-year-old Jason DeHaan's brother became worried when he hadn't returned home from his friend 55-year-old Jeff Ryan's house, where he had spent the previous evening. He decided to go to Jeff's house himself. At first, there was no sign of either of them. That is, until he used a flashlight to look through the window of Jeff's mobile home. He caught sight of a large amount of blood and immediately called his father, Robert DeHaan, to inform him of the shocking discovery. Robert soon arrived, and together the two men made their way inside. The home was hauntingly still. At first glance, it appeared that no one was there. Robert made his way to one of the bedrooms, and that was where he encountered the first horrific sight.
I haven't seen in the cover. Oh yeah, I probably missed it. I had Majora's Mask, and then I've done zombie stuff, and I think I got my skin.
Horrific.
Link is my
At this
skin.
point, the men notified authorities.
Appreciate you stopping
Maine
in.
State Police troopers soon responded, and it wasn't long before the other 2 victims were located nearby. Jeff's body was found in a shed on the property, and they found Jason's mutilated body had been abandoned at the end of the driveway. Initially, Jeff's truck was nowhere to be found. A few days later, it was located approximately 15 miles from his home. It had been set on fire, apparently to destroy any evidence the assailant had left behind. The whole situation was impossible to swallow. Initially, it appeared to have been a random ambush. There was no other explanation as to how these individuals had been chosen. For the first time, the town lived in fear. A homicidal maniac was on the loose, potentially roaming the streets, preparing to attack again. It was imperative that the killer be found immediately before any additional lives could be taken. A wealth of evidence was gathered from the crime scene. Amongst the items collected were beer bottles and cigarette butts, as well as fingerprints, and most importantly, the DNA profile of an unknown male was found. While a variety of law enforcement agencies were hard at work on the case, an elderly couple, Robert Bob Strout and Joy Strout, sat for an interview with a local newspaper. The pair had connections with one of the victims, Jeff Ryan. Bob and Joy's daughter, Tamara Strout, had a teenage daughter with Jeff. Their granddaughter had just lost her father, and though it didn't initially seem there was any other connection to the ongoing case, one would soon emerge. Detectives conducted numerous interviews, which eventually revealed someone had been staying with Bob and Joy Strout for a few weeks, including at the time of the killings, a young man by the name of Thane Orbsby. You see, Thane's mother was good friends with the Strout's daughter, and Thane moved in with the couple to help them around the house, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of their pheasants and other birds. Since he was at the Strout's home at the time of the killings, police believed that Thane could have witnessed something potentially helpful for the case. The thing was, at the time of the investigation, Thane was no longer living with Bob and Joy. Luckily, the couple knew exactly where he was. Thane had made a recent move to Dover in Maine's neighboring state of New Hampshire. There he was now living with Bob and Joy's son, which made tracking him down even easier for detectives. Maine State Police detectives spoke to Thane at the residence on June 29th, 1 week after the killings, and asked him a few questions. At the time, Thane agreed to provide his fingerprints and a sample of his DNA during the course of the meeting. On July 2nd, the detectives returned to the residence where Thane was staying. They asked if he'd be willing to speak with them at a Dover, New Hampshire police station, and he obliged. They had a feeling he knew more than he'd originally let on, though he was being cooperative so far. With that, the interview gets underway. The majority of the following interrogation footage has never been seen before.
Because you know the family better than anybody, right?
I'll do my best. I don't know that I know them better than anybody.
Well, you know better than I do. That's
Perhaps.
you know. No, we talked to a lot of people. You know, we talked to Tamara, obviously, Rana.
You might recall that Tamara is the daughter of Bob and Joy Strout. Mariah is the daughter of Tamara and Jeff Ryan, one of the murder victims.
Then I talked to Tanya.
Note that Tanya is another daughter of Bob and Joy. She actually holds a significant place in this story, because the interview the detective has just referred to was precisely how they learned that Thane had been staying with Bob and Joy for the past few weeks, prior to his recent move to New Hampshire.
She's a piece of work, you know.
Oh yeah.
She thought I was this cat's ass. She thinks you're gorgeous, by the way.
I know.
Oh, really?
You'll notice right off the bat that Thane really is a piece of work, for lack of a better way to describe him. However, the detectives are savvy. Don't let their unassuming demeanors fool you. It's all an act to get Thane to talk, and talk he does.
Guys like you make me feel old, because I've been in this criminal division here for 20 years.
Yeah.
You're 20.
And
so. Oh, what? You don't want
You've
me?
been working this.
Huh?
I hope I didn't mix these up. Find out.
Yeah,
you'll know.
Where's yours?
No. If I make that, I'll be going to the bathroom in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They continue the small talk and keep the conversation lighthearted. Have faith, though. There's a method behind this madness.
He's Dale Keegan, and you're
Adam Stoudemeyer.
Stoudemeyer.
Yeah.
You're from New Hampshire.
Kittery.
Yeah, practically.
New Hampshire. Actually, you say that. I was born in the hospital in Portsmouth, so.
Okay.
The detectives continue to build rapport because they know that pushing too quickly could cause Thane to stop talking or ask for a lawyer. Clearly, though, Thane is enjoying the conversation. Or maybe it's just the sound of his own voice or being the center of attention. They touch on a variety of subjects, and Thane has a lot to contribute.
And what really went wrong is I got engaged. That's what went wrong.
Who'd you get engaged to?
Cindy Courier. She left me for my best friend 2 weeks before the wedding.
This particular tangent, like each of the others thus far, is completely unrelated to the reason for this meeting. Though it may not appear so, the interview is off to an excellent start. The detectives did their homework, and they obviously know what makes Thane tick, how he views himself, and how he wants others to view him. This helps them determine the best way to approach him, and will hopefully cause him to let his guard down and reveal the truth. An intriguing question soon makes its way into the conversation, as they continue this little session of getting to know one another.
What person in your life do you think you most respect?
Person in my life, living person.
Yeah, whatever.
It doesn't matter. Andrew Beardsley.
Who's that?
He was my coach, mentor, I consider him, and literature teacher in high school. And he's the nephew to Bill Beardsley, who's just running for governor. I also have a connection with Hudson College. He did his college thesis on Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien. He taught a class on Tolkien. I took a class on Tolkien. I love Lord of the Rings. Similarly in The Hobbit.
Thane shows us a bit of his scholarly side here.
I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. You watch that?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that Precious? The little Precious? I know, yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the other show there.
Harry Potter? No.
Tom Brady.
No. Different.
And the detectives continue to let him talk. They feed his ego as they play up his intellect and downplay their own. After sufficient time has been invested in efforts to build a strong rapport, the detective cuts to the chase and the moment this has all been building towards. He confronts Thane with a direct question.
So what about this case here? We'll start with the beginning here. What type of person do you think would do this?
No, I haven't given that much thought.
Yet if a serious crime happens in a small town to people you know, and as a result you're sitting in an interrogation room, it's hard to believe you haven't given it a lot of thought. Though he isn't really showing it, Thane is likely feeling some level of stress, which would be normal given the circumstances. His hands have been touching since he entered the room, and while it's possible this is simply a comfortable and a typical position for him, it may be a self-soothing behavior due to feelings of stress.
Someone would have to be cold, greedy maybe, I don't know. Someone would have to be just heartless. I mean, I never met Mariah's little brother. Who could do that?
Well, you never know. I mean, the biggest thing that we don't understand is reasons. I mean, there's a reason for everything, you know, and mistakes happen. That's the why even a computer has a delete key, you know?
Right.
Mistakes happen. Wrong place, wrong time, panic, self-defense, who knows? Are you well aware of the Constitution and all that stuff?
Well,
Aware of the Constitution and your rights and all that. Do you understand you're not under arrest?
yes, I understand.
Okay. If you ever want to leave, you just tell me. All right, all I ask is you be rude about it.
I mean, I'd be a little bit shocked if I were under arrest, to tell you the truth.
So would I. But so
And I'm here to cooperate.
well, that's right. That's right. But when and I appreciate that. I know you know your one formalities that we have to do. Okay. You can probably recite it better than I can.
I don't know that I could recite it.
All right. Would you understand it though?
The detectives intentionally downplay the formalities, and Thane seems to think he has this one in the bag. We're about to see, however, that this definitely isn't the case. After the short detour for Miranda warnings, the detective picks right back up where he left off.
Formalities, right?
Right.
So, where were we? We were talking about what that person would do that's just cold, greedy, heartless.
Someone just with no love for life, no love for things that grow. And I mean, what we know about Tolkien and Tolkien's writing, you seem like you know a little bit more about Tolkien. It's, you know, his main themes are hope and hopelessness and a love for things that grow.
Interesting. And this brings us to the next question, as the detective once again pulls Thane back in from his most recent departure from the topic.
What should happen to the person when we find
What should happen?
when we find the bad guy? What should happen?
Well, I imagine you're going to read him his rights, formality,
Right.
and lock him away.
You think he should go to jail?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, unless there's a good reason. Can you think of any good reason something like this could happen?
A good reason?
Yeah. Do you think of any reason? I mean, again, we don't understand reasons. You know, just because he did something like this doesn't mean you gotta go to jail for your life, you know? But just, can you think of any good reason for something like this to happen?
I cannot think of any good reason something like that could happen.
So far, he isn't able to provide a reason. Not yet, at least. The detective travels back several years and inquires about an event that seems to have had a profoundly negative impact on Thane.
You lived with Uncle Steve. You were at Uncle Steve's and through the high school years?
That's right.
Okay. So obviously things were not going good with Ron during this.
Age 12 up to age 17.
Anything significant happen at age 12 to make you want to move out from mom to go with Uncle Steve?
Well,
Anything significant?
it wasn't my choice. It was a matter of DHHS or DHS, Department of Health and Human Services.
He claims that he was allegedly abused by his mother, which resulted in him being removed from her care at age 12 and into his uncle's home until he was 17. It's possible that Thane is exaggerating or even fabricating his history of alleged abuse as a ploy for sympathy. The detectives touch on high school and how that ended for Thane. This may be a sore subject, considering his inflated view of his high level of intelligence.
So you graduated in 08?
That was the class of 08.
Yeah. And you graduated Ellsworth High School?
I didn't graduate.
Why didn't you? What happened there?
That's a long story too.
We get a point. Yeah, plenty of time with coffee and even candy bars if you want.
Okay. Senior year rolls around. I've got my car, my license, almost all of my credits.
You've likely noticed by now that Thane's word usage is atypical. Because he didn't finish high school, perhaps Thane is trying to make up for it by using a higher level vocabulary to appear as smart or smarter than the detectives.
Ellsworth was a school system that changed their systems, treated us like guinea pigs, and treated us like we were in prison cells.
If what Thane is saying has any truth to it, you'd think he'd make every effort possible to avoid ending up in a prison cell. Bear in mind, though it's not always the case, a troubled childhood can lead to legal issues later on in life.
You know, I started partying. That was my whole party phase. It pretty much started and ended at 17. Really. You did some stupid stuff.
What was the stupidest thing you did?
Stupid.
Even if you didn't get caught.
Oh no, I got caught. And I always get caught.
You always get caught.
Oh yeah. It's the weirdest thing. Anything I ever do, there's always someone looking, you know? And it's just like, will I do anything wrong?
Yeah.
This is an interesting question here. Needless to say, detectives can see past this facade.
We stole a gun from my friend's house. This same Michael, who is now marrying my ex-fiancée in the same very church that we were getting married in. And what had happened is, I turned myself in. I found out the police were looking for me. I said, okay. I walked right in and said, hi, my name's Thane Ormsby. I'm here to turn myself in.
What did you get for a punishment?
Probation. Well, I mean, I was underage, and it was my first offense.
Thane is trying to appear as if he was a criminal during that short-lived phase, but quickly returned to his law-abiding ways. Turning himself in, as he just alleged, was likely a self-serving behavior, possibly to receive a lesser punishment, rather than because he was truly remorseful for his actions. This appears to be an attempt to self-promote and make himself seem like he does the right thing. He likely told the detective this story in an attempt to control how they see him. If he's honest about this story, he may believe that he will then appear like he's always honest. After this most recent digression, the detective refocuses the conversation, and as you'll see, Thane's demeanor changes significantly. Maybe it's because this topic makes him uncomfortable.
Okay, let's talk about how you met Jeff.
He came over to Baba Joyce.
Okay, do you remember when that was?
Early, a couple days after I got there.
Thane's posture changes here. He's slouched and concerned. A change in demeanor such as this could be a sign of deception. You might think that he needs to look the detective in the eye in order to sound truthful.
And tell me about that conversation, how'd that go?
We didn't really have a conversation. I mean, he came in and he talked to Baba Joy, and I was there.
And you knew at this point he is wrong at all.
Yeah.
And you guys hit it off?
Yeah, we get along. We were cool. He said, you know, come on over, blah, blah, blah.
How long was he there?
Half an hour. I thought it was 20 minutes.
Was the little boy not there?
No. He was with his mother.
It's not long before Thane takes Jeff up on the invite and pays a visit to his home.
How long ago after the first visit were you up there?
A week.
About a week. And what's going on when you up there this week later?
It's just Jeff. Jeff's drinking a beer, mowing his lawn.
Outside. And how was Jeff?
Jeff was doing good. Jeff was talking about his son, saying he was going to be back.
So this was about a week before this happened. Because you only lived there for 3 weeks, you said, right?
Yeah, it's all proximity.
Right. You were there, you met him, and then about a week later you go out. So that would have been a week before this whole thing happened. You were there, and he's mowing the lawn.
The detectives are really beginning to focus in on all of the details, and Thane's attitude has noticeably changed.
So you're there, and what goes on? He's mowing the lawn. He stopped mowing.
He's mowing the lawn. He stopped mowing the lawn, talked to me, invited me in, said, "Have a beer." I had a beer with him. I sat, drank a beer with him.
Mm-hmm.
Joey actually called. Joey Wednesday. called me and told me to come back and go to the yard.
So how did you get there?
How did I get there? I walked up.
You walked up.
Yeah, it's a short distance.
You didn't take your bike.
No.
Okay.
Though it's not quite clear yet, everything is beginning to come together.
I'm a visual guy. Can you draw the trailer for me and say where you went to that trailer? Because it's important to see where you went and all that stuff. Can you do that for
He
me?
showed me.
Sure.
Yeah, right there.
Despite his claim of being a visual guy, there's much more to this seemingly simple request. Having a suspect draw something instead of simply stating it is a step in the read technique that solidifies the statements the suspect is making, so there's less confusion and more detail. This also makes it harder to retract statements later. The detectives can also use the mind to point out specific things when they start confronting him.
So, like I said, I was walking down the road, and he was mowing his lawn. And we walked and talking, and I met his dog. I walked over and petted his dog. Walked in, and we told me to come on in. Grabbed him, and then chairs here. We sat down here. It was a hot day. We came back outside. Sat down here. That was it.
How long were you there, you think?
Half hour.
And he had already showed you around the place before this, you said?
He showed me stuff.
Before this visit.
For this visit? No, this is the visit. There were only, alright.
There was at least two visits, as you said. The very first time you met him, you went down and had a beer. Then you said, I asked you if it was the second or third visit that this happened, and you said it was the second visit.
I'll
That you came down here.
be straightforward because there's no reason I can't.
I appreciate that.
And this is where his story begins to change.
I do have a bicycle.
Right.
I know this much.
Okay.
But there are only two occasions I've met.